So for today's topic, I'm sure you've all heard about of shadow IT, the unauthorized use or unsanctioned use, if you will, of IT tools, applications, etc. Now there's shadow AI, and shadow AI is akin to shadow IT, but now it's in a world, the world that we live in with generative AI. And so think about unsanctioned or unauthorized use of AI tools, which you can only imagine can be very detrimental in terms of protecting your data. So that is the topic today. As usual, this webinar will be recorded. We have a SLG and SLED YouTube channel, which we will share with you in case you are interested in or missed other sessions. We will again share that. If you have any questions, please post them in chat, and we have several members of our team that will be monitoring our chat. Special note, this webinar is a topic specific and not intended as a support channel. So by all means, if you do have any questions, please contact your Microsoft CSAM, Customer Success Account Manager, or your account team. Now, before we get started, I am going to carry on our tradition of a bad dad joke. So please tolerate this and bear with me. So Ashok, are you ready?
No, please.
What do you call a sleeping bull?
I have no clue. Go ahead with your joke, please.
A bulldozer. Okay. Now that that's over with, I will proceed. So on today's session, we have not two, but three presenters, all of which are senior solution engineers here at Microsoft. One is Leo Ramirez, the other is Bhavan Bhatia, and the third is Ashok Ghosh, the brunt of my joke. So without further ado, Leo, I think I turn it over to you to kick us off.
All right. Thank you so much, Barry. Always a pleasure being here. We're excited to deliver this amazing content for you guys. And we're very proud for this community that's growing. We're over 750 now with customers nationwide. And we're here. We're here for you guys to help you unlock the value of these Microsoft solutions that you currently have or will have in the future. Thank you so much for joining us, but let's go ahead and jump right in. So Barry alluded to what the definition of shadow AI is, and I just wanted to show you here because as Barry mentioned, many of us we're familiar with shadow IT, but shadow AI, this is something that's a growing concern. And again, it's the unsanctioned use of any artificial intelligence tool or application that basically IT or security, they don't know about. These are what end users are using maybe to make their job easier or faster. Well, let's talk about some of these concerns. Well, there's a long list here. We got seven important reasons of why shadow AI is preventing is important in SLED. And we're not going to go through all of these because for the lack of time, but I do want to draw your attention to three of them that are important to SLED. Let's talk about these real quick. First, we have data security and privacy risk. This is important, especially in SLED, because shadow AI, the tools that users could use, they could process sensitive information and without proper oversight, or if that sensitive information is encrypted, look at the impact. You risk data breaches, data leaks, violation of compliance regulatory laws or privacy laws like HIPAA, CJIS, IRS. Another concern that's important to you, regulatory and compliance violations. Well, having unauthorized AI, it can lead to being non-compliant with data protection laws. And this could lead to fines, legal exposure, or damaging your reputation. And then another important one that's key is lack of governance, not being able to audit. You don't have this visibility, you can't track how these systems, these shadow AI systems are being used. And if you can't do that, you can't meet your audit requirements. You can't be accountable or meet these ethical AI standards. Well, preventing shadow AI, it's not just about the technology. It's about protecting sensitive data, ensuring that you're compliant, and maintaining trust, because this is important for SLED organizations. And these risks, they can be amplified just simply due to the nature of the data that you handle in your regulatory environment. So we need to be proactive when addressing shadow AI. And we need to safeguard our operations, our reputation, and most importantly, the community that we're serving. So this is a story that could happen in your organization. Let's talk about John and Maggie. They both work for a health organization. Maybe it's a health state department or an academic medical center. Well, they have Copilot and they work in a SharePoint site where there's sensitive confidential information, health data. John, he uses Copilot to summarize a confidential file that has health data. Well, when he summarizes it with Copilot, it's automatically labeled as confidential. Maggie, she wants to use ChatGPT, a consumer version that's shadow AI. Well, she copies the information from that file that has health data into ChatGPT. What happens? Well, that health data, it's prematurely revealed and there's a data breach. And because as a result of that, the organization bans all use of AI. Exactly what they're trying to accomplish, they derail because users are using shadow AI in an unauthorized manner. This is the impact that could happen in this scenario. Well, there's two approaches here, how we can protect our organization from shadow AI. You have the hammer approach, which happened in the scenario that we just talked about. This is where an organization bans all use of AI applications or agents. This is going to reduce productivity. Then you have the scalpel approach. This is what we recommend in the blueprint that we're going to discuss throughout this webinar. This is where instead of prohibiting all AI use, we're going to use specific signals such as the user's risk level and detecting if there's sensitive information in files or in prompts that are sent to those AI applications. Now, this scalpel approach, it's going to enhance productivity. And then at the same time, you're going to protect your organization from shadow AI. Now, this slide is introducing a practical approach to addressing preventing data leakage to shadow AI. Now, we have 4 phases here. We're going to talk about the discover phase, where we're going to see how unknown AI app usage is discovered. Then there's the block phase, which includes a number of steps on blocking unsanctioned AI apps. And then we're going to go into the secure data phase, where we're going to see how we can protect sensitive data that's sent to sanctioned AI apps, how that can be secured and blocked. And finally, we're going to talk about the steps in governing data. This is where we can audit interactions, we can do e-discovery, we can retain prompts that contain AI interactions. Now, this blueprint, it's a structured approach. It's a phased approach that's going to help us discover, block, secure, and govern the usage of AI. And if we follow these 4 phases, we're going to be able to minimize the risk of data leaks. We're going to maintain compliance, and we're going to empower our teams to use AI safely and do it productively. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Bibi, and she's going to walk us through these first 2 phases, discover and block access.
Thank you so much, Leo, for that great overview of managing shadow AI and why it is so important, especially for our SLED customers. Now let's take a look at the detailed steps of how you can prevent data leak to shadow AI with Microsoft. The first step in managing shadow AI is to discover the use of AI applications and interactions. With Defender for Cloud Apps, you can monitor AI app usage and you can also assess their risk. And based on this assessment, you can then decide whether to sanction or unsanction these AI apps. There are various types of risk assessment reports that you can generate. For example, you can create snapshot reports by manually uploading traffic logs from your firewalls and proxies. Or alternatively, you can create continuous reports by connecting with Defender for Endpoint or log collectors or secure web gateways. And this setup will gather logs from your endpoints and integrate it with Defender for Cloud Apps and help with automatic detection of shadow IT or shadow AI. Let me show you how to generate a cloud discovery dashboard through Defender for Endpoint integration. Go to your Defender portal and then let's go to settings. Here under endpoints, advanced features, ensure that you have enabled the settings to forward Defender for Endpoint signals to Defender for Cloud App. And then if we go to the cloud discovery dashboard in Defender portal, you will now see the discovered apps, the discovered resources, IP addresses, users, as well as devices. And on this cloud discovery dashboard, you can also quickly see the summary of discovered apps, the categories. So I can see generative AI apps that are being used in the organization. Some of them may be shadow AI apps. You can also see the risk level of the apps, top entities or users that are using these apps, as well as the app headquarters locations as well. Let's see the discovered apps in my environment. You can browse the Discover Shadow IT or AI apps by using this category here. And also you can check the app risk score. To discover Shadow AI, you can browse the category Generative AI. These are the various generative AI apps that have been discovered in my environment. So example, users are using shadow AI apps like Consumer, Google Gemini, ChatGPT, and also there are some other risky apps with low risk score. So let's check more details about this app here. So you can check information like where is the app headquartered, what kind of security measures and compliance standards does this app provide. Looks like not much. Let's click on this app to discover more details. So here you can see how many active users are using the app and how much traffic it is generating and so on. So we saw how you can get high-level visibility into shadow AI apps. Additionally, you can also identify when user visits AI websites. You can get visibility into prompts that the users enter into shadow AI apps. You can also detect if the user is entering sensitive prompts into these apps or if the user is having risky AI interactions in these apps as well. Microsoft Purview provides a solution called Data Security Posture Management for AI, or it's also referred to as DSPM for AI, that will help you create various policies to understand all these granular details. Let's see how DSPM for AI can help you detect when the users use a browser to visit AI sites. So I'm in the Purview portal, and under DSPM for AI, you will see different recommendations and policies that use Purview solutions to discover and safeguard AI activity across your organization. So here, let's go to the DSPM for AI, detect when users visit AI sites. To implement this policy, Microsoft Purview browser extension must first be installed on the Windows devices because this is a necessary prerequisite. After you turn on this policy, it basically creates an insider risk management policy. And then you will be able to track when a user visits a generative AI site. And such sites may include Microsoft 365 Copilot, Copilot Chat, agents, other Copilots, other Microsoft Copilots, as well as third-party AI platforms as well. The activity type is listed as AI website visit, and you can also see which AI app was accessed. So example looks like this user Megan is accessing DeepSeek, ChatGPT, and other consumer AI apps as well. If you have already set up admin units, then you can use this scope filter here to check the Shadow AI website activities of a specific department. So example, I can filter the scope to see Shadow AI website visit activities in Department of Health or Legal Department. This is extremely important because health agencies have to follow HIPAA regulation, and you may want to get visibility into the Shadow AI activities happening, especially for your HIPAA data. Some employees also might unintentionally share confidential information like health or financial information into unmanaged consumer AI apps or shadow AI apps like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, DeepSeek. And you may want to get visibility into the prompts entered into these consumer AI apps. For this, you can create a DSPM for AI browser data security policy. And for this policy to function properly, your end users must be appropriately licensed. There are also some additional pay-as-you-go components here. Additionally, the devices must be enrolled in Intune. And if you want to prevent users from sharing sensitive information with unmanaged AI applications, then DLP policies can be enforced directly within Microsoft Edge for Business. And this applies across all Edge profiles, even including the private mode as well. To enforce the DLP policy in Edge, users must be targeted by both the browser DLP policy and also the Edge configuration policy. And these capabilities are supported in the two latest stable versions of Edge. Please note that this feature is not yet available in GCC as of October 2025, but it will be coming in the future. But our education customers can start using these policies. So let's go to the DSPM for AI portal in the Purview portal. And let's activate the policy DSPM for AI detect sensitive information shared in AI prompts in Edge. You will have to create a collection policy that discovers prompts entered in unmanaged consumer AI apps like ChatGPT, DeepSeek, etc. Leo will be showing you how to create the collection policies later in the upcoming session. Now, after creating this DSPM for AI policy, if the end users are interacting with unmanaged AI apps, we can see their interactions here. So example, you can see Joni Sherman from HR department has accessed ChatGPT, and I can also see what are the prompts that she entered in ChatGPT as well. So she's asking, what's the news today? Then going through the Activity Explorer, we can also filter prompts if they contain sensitive information. So example, in this prompt, looks like Joni Sherman has entered SSN number, right? So sensitive information type has been detected. At least we now have visibility into what type of data is getting into all these consumer generative AI apps so that we can start taking some actions on these type of events. We may also want to discover sensitive content that has been pasted or uploaded in Microsoft Edge or Chrome or Firefox to AI sites. And for this, we can create the DSPM for AI's endpoint DLP policy. So let's go back to the DSPM for AI portal. And here we can turn on the DSPM for AI detect sensitive information added to AI sites. This is an endpoint DLP policy. I've already turned it on. Your endpoint devices have to be onboarded to Microsoft Purview portal for this policy to work. After this policy is created, if the end user copy pastes corporate sensitive data that matches the classifiers, or if they pasted information from confidential or highly confidential labeled content, then you will be seeing those activities here. So you can see there's a DLP rule match that is visible in the Activity Explorer. So there are DLP rule matches here for various apps like DeepSeek, Google Gemini, ChatGPT, and so on. If you click on this DLP rule match here, you can see additional information about Megan's interaction with DeepSeek. So it says sensitive information types detected like credit card numbers, social security numbers, and so on. And if we click on this, you can see the sensitive content that was detected. Yep, looks like the user has copy pasted a bunch of credit card numbers and social security numbers from some of their corporate documents into this DeepSeek. Also, if the user has tried copy pasting sensitive data from any labeled documents, then you can see them under the filter sensitive files referenced yes. So here you can see there's a DLP rule match. Looks like Megan, who belongs to a Department of Health, has copied some content from Project Falcon Word document with a highly confidential sensitivity label to ChatGPT. So all this is concerning and alarming, right? So now you have the visibility at least that the sensitive data is getting into all these shadow AI apps. So we saw how to detect when users input sensitive data into AI applications. Additionally, you can also identify users who repeatedly perform risky actions in generative AI apps by implementing the DSPM for AI Detect Risky AI Usage IRM policy. For this, there are some prerequisites. Your end users must again be appropriately licensed. You must install Purview browser extension for Edge, Chrome, or Firefox. And at least one browsing indicator has to be selected from the insider risk management settings. This feature is not yet available in GCC, but it will be landing in the future. But our education customers can make use of this. So before getting started with the policy, go to your insider risk management settings and turn on the risky browsing indicators, especially browse to this generative AI websites. And then go to the DSPM for AI. And here you can see the detect risky AI usage policy. So I have already turned this on. This will help us proactively identify risks and it empowers us to make informed decisions regarding shadow AI usage. Once you configure this policy, you will start seeing insider risk severity per AI app. And you can also see that risky users are using third-party AI apps like DeepSeek. You can also see the potential risky AI usage reports and details regarding risky prompts that are entered and also received sensitive responses in Copilot, Copilot agents, or other AI apps as well. In the Activity Explorer, you can then filter the AI interactions as per user risk level. So let me filter on user risk level high. So now you can see Megan has visited DeepSeek several times. She has been marked as a high risk user here. We can investigate more details in the Insider Risk Management portal if required. So in the Insider Risk Management portal, if we go to the user activity section, we can clearly see that this user has been constantly browsing third-party generative AI websites way above acceptable threshold. They're also entering risky, sensitive prompts in Copilot, receiving sensitive responses from Copilot, and looks like they are summarizing highly confidential documents and so on. Now, all this information assists organization in assessing their current risk position and helps determine the level of risk appetite that they can handle. And if you prefer to keep your sensitive data from being processed by generative AI or even enterprise AI apps, then you can consider planning to implement features like Copilot DLP, sensitivity labels, or even endpoint DLP solutions. Again, Leo is going to talk regarding some of these capabilities in this coming session. Okay, so we are done discovering shadow AI and have a good understanding of how your users are using AI. Now it's time to start implementing some controls around accessing the shadow AI. With Defender for Cloud Apps, you can block access of unsanctioned AI apps to entire organization. So this is the hammer approach that Leo was referring to earlier. So where we block the access to everyone. But of course, if you want granular controls, we can also target certain users or we can target users from copy pasting corporate sensitive data into AI apps as well. We will be talking about all those features in this session. You can also implement tailored access restrictions to permit use of certain AI applications while blocking others based on their user profiles as well. If you have deployed Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, you can integrate it with Defender for Cloud Apps, and you can block unsanctioned shadow AI or IT apps. So first go to the Defender portal and under settings, go to endpoints and make sure that the integration with Defender for Cloud Apps is enabled. And also the custom network indicators are switched on. This will ensure that Defender for Endpoint accepts Defender for Cloud Apps unsanctioned app list as blocking indicators. And also there is a setting here to enforce app access. This will allow Defender for Cloud App to push unsanctioned app domains to Defender for Endpoint for blocking any unsanctioned apps. Now, after we have done these settings, let's go to the Cloud Discovery dashboard. And now, if the organization has decided that using DeepSeek might be really risky because there are risky users who are using those apps and we want to outright block this app, you can go here and tag this app as unsanctioned. To block all devices from accessing this app, you can simply confirm by clicking Save. If you want to scope the block to specific device groups, you can select a predefined scoped profile here. So example, I can block this app only to DHS users. Now, if you use Zscaler or Corata or IVAS and other software web gateways, you can also generate block scripts using the Defender for Cloud App APIs to block the unsanctioned apps. And once an endpoint has updated policy, any attempt to access the unsanctioned Shadow AI app is blocked. And this is how the end user experience is going to look like. So this user is accessing DeepSeek and you can see it says it has been blocked by your organization. There are also some other methods to block Shadow AI from Intune and Entra's internet access capabilities. I will now let Ashok explain how this can be achieved. Ashok, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bibi, for the great overview. Now, let's pivot into the aspects of how we can block the access through Entra's internet access capability or Intune or Defender for Cloud. So at Microsoft, we believe in comprehensive security and defense in depth. So till now, you heard about Bibi and Leo talking about how we can use Defender for Cloud apps and Purview to do shadow AI or block access. Now, think about a scenario where you want to block the access from specific user who might be using unmanaged device or whatnot, which do not have Defender for Endpoint installed, right? So still you can do that with Entra's internet access. Now, let me draw the attention to you. Entra Internet Access is our global secure access feature. And in that, you can create web content filtering policies. And within that, there is a category called artificial intelligence, very new. And with that, what you can do, you can create either block or allow rules or policies for your global secure access. Now, once you have that, you can attach those policies to specific security profiles and then attach it to conditional access policies, the session control policies. You can see that this is a full package where you can create the policies of allowing or blocking specific artificial intelligence application like you have for other things like alcohol, gaming, or whatever. And then you're basically tying it to your conditional access policies. Now, when you manage things through your conditional access policies, anytime any user gets authenticated, you have the capabilities to revisit the sessions, and based on the session, you can allow or block what that particular user can access or cannot access. It's a game changer, right? So this is a new solution from Microsoft's Entra product group, which is called Global Secure Access. Now, specifically for SLG customers, this feature, Global Secure Access, you will find in your portal as preview. So you do not have a purchasable SKU as of today, but by calendar year 26, H1, you would be able to get that. So if you want to try it out in your like a non-production environment, you can definitely do that. Okay, this is one approach how you can use Entra's internet access. Now, next one is let's think about with Intune. Now, again, Intune would help you in two approaches. One is the manage devices. So whenever you have Defender for Endpoint, whenever you are managing the devices through Intune, we call it manage devices. And you can block the access of generative AI applications through Intune. And you can even uninstall. So if you go to your Intune profile, for example, you are trying to create for iOS or whatever the configuration settings, you can create a bundle of restriction for com.deepseek.chat. So this is one example. What you are telling any user or any devices which is managed, you are basically telling that com.deepseek.chat is blocked. Now, what if you already have them installed on those devices? You can uninstall them. But again, this is for the managed devices. There are some similar capabilities for the unmanaged devices also from iOS and Android. But you think about the comprehensive approach where not only MDE can help you to prevent the blocking the access to the generative AI consumer apps, you can use uh, Intra with conditional access policies and even Intune to block or uninstall some of those applications. Now, let's think about another approach. Now, till now, we have been talking about the applications that is consumer applications. I think BB and Leo was talking about consumer applications like DeepSeek, ChatGPT. How about the applications which are generative AI that you are building, right? So that can pose the risk on the shadow AI and data leak as well. So good news is we have solution for that. We call it Defender for Cloud with the security posture management and workload protection. You can think about end to end. How I mean that, for example, you are building application like, for example, AI application using Azure OpenAI service, Azure machine learning, Amazon Bedrock, or Google's any other PaaS-based solution. Now, as an IT administrator or security administrator, when you're thinking about comprehensive shadow AI discovery and data leak protection, you have to think about those use cases as well. And what is the solution and tool that you have, right? On that regard, whenever you are or your team is building AI application, maybe without the approval from the IT or security organization, then you have way to detect and protect them as well using Defender for Cloud. And how can you do that? In a nutshell, basically what we are telling you, using AI security posture management of Defender for Cloud, you can gain visibility across your Azure OpenAI, AI Foundry, Amazon Bedrock, Google Vertex AI, everything. For example, again, I repeat, anyone from your organization creating uh, open AI model without the approval, that can pose a risk of shadow AI, right? So using AI security posture manager, you can identify them, whether they are following the best practices or identify any attack path. For example, those open AI model, are they connected to a storage account or database, which can create a higher risk of data leak, right? So you can identify them. Then another approach is protecting those workloads at runtime, because this is the section about shadow AI and data leak, right? So how about there is a jailbreak attack happens on those Azure OpenAI service, which is your team is building, and any threat to that can cause a data leak, right? So in that case, using the Defender for AI or the workload protection plan from Defender for Cloud can actually help you to identify those jailbreak attacks or any malicious IP address, and everything you get into the single pane of glass of our unified Defender portal. So as I kind of summarize the whole thing, with Purview, Defender for Cloud apps, as you are working on your shadow AI discovery and protection, you can augment that with Entra's conditional access policies, Intune's device policies, and Defender for Cloud for protection and discovery of your open AI or AI-based solution that your team is actually building. With this, I'll give it back to BB to continue with the next set of sessions.
Hey, thanks, Ashok. So yeah, we saw that with Defender for Cloud Apps and Entra and other means like Intune, you can block users from accessing certain AI apps. However, there are cases where balancing security and productivity becomes important, right? Rather than fully blocking AI apps for everyone, you can restrict users from inputting prompts or copying sensitive information into the AI apps only if they have a higher risk level, and while lower risk users can maintain the productivity. So adaptive protection feature in Purview can help you with this. And then you can apply DLP actions, data lifecycle policies, or even conditional access policies automatically to users based on their insider risk levels. You need to first turn on the adaptive protection settings in Purview portal for this. And then under insider risk portal, you can see the predefined insider risk levels like elevated risk level, moderate risk level, as well as minor risk levels. And you can leverage these risk levels as conditions in DLP policy so that you can block risky users from copy pasting or entering prompts in generative AI. So in the DSPM for AI portal, you can go and turn on policies to block elevated risk users from pasting or uploading sensitive information to AI sites. You can also block elevated risk users from submitting prompts to AI apps in Microsoft Edge browser as well. So now let's see end user experience for these two policies. I've already created these policies. So you can see that this risky user here, Megan, she's copy pasting corporate sensitive data into consumer AI apps like ChatGPT, and you can block this user from doing so. This is based on the risk level. And then here you can also see that if the risky user is entering any prompts in generative AI app, they are prevented from doing so. So this user is entering something in DeepSeek, even though it is not sensitive, we are preventing that user from doing so because this is a risky user. So to summarize, we can block risky users' activities with GenAI while allowing low risk users to work with GenAI efficiently, and then we can balance the security and productivity. Now I'm going to hand it over to Leo, who is going to show you how you can secure your data while using generative AI apps. Over to you, Leo.
Thanks so much, BB and Ashok, for getting us through those first two phases of this approach. This has been very insightful so far, and I've learned a lot from you guys. But let's go on to the secure data phase. So in this phase, this is where we're going to prevent sensitive data from being sent to sanctioned AI apps. That's our outcome, as you can see here. Let's dive into each one of these steps. So let's first talk about the first step, which is blocking the pasting and uploading of sensitive information. This is going to require that we have an endpoint DLP policy configured with specific settings to block pasting and uploading of sensitive information into the AI app in the browser. Another key component here is having our sensitive data classified and protected, having it labeled. Now, I want to take a minute to talk about why it's important for SLED organizations to label their data. Well, labeling sensitive data, it's essential. It's going to help you get AI ready, like you see here. Those labels, they can serve like signals in your DLP policies, and their protection settings can be applied to those labels to prevent unauthorized access. Another key point about the labels is that they travel with the content. So what this means is if a document has a sensitivity label on it with protection settings, and a user is using an AI app and they upload that document with the label applied to it, that AI app is not going to be able to read that file unless it's Copilot, of course. But let's see what this looks like in a demo, just so you can get that visual. Here, first thing we're going to do is walk through creating the endpoint DLP policy for blocking those actions we're talking about here. Uploading of sensitive data to restricted domains and unallocated browsers, and also pasting sensitive information into the browser. So we're going to give the policy a name and a description. Now, the location is going to be devices, and we're going to scope it to users and groups. Now, you can start with scoping it to the security team during your testing phase, and then you can widen the net gradually. Now we're going to create the rule with the appropriate settings. First, we need to define the kinds of sensitive information we want to detect. I've also configured it for labels. We want sensitivity labels as a condition. Now, what this means is if sensitivity labels are detected, then it's going to have an action tied to them. Let's see what that action looks like within this rule. Here under the audit and the restrict activities on devices, this is where we configure the settings to block uploading of sensitive information to the cloud and pasting sensitive information in the browsers. Now, these information bubbles, they provide a description of what these actions do and some of the prerequisites. These settings can be configured for actions like block, audit, or block with override. Now let's step away from the policy and take a look at the endpoint DLP settings for these two actions. So we're going to go on the left here and click on settings on the sidebar. And this is going to bring us up to the settings section within Microsoft Purview, where there's a number of solutions that have settings, but let's focus our attention on data loss prevention. Now under the browser and domain restrictions to sensitive data section, we're going to take a look at unallowed browsers. Now, if this setting is configured, unallowed browsers like Firefox and Chrome, they're going to be prevented from accessing files that have sensitive information. And under here, in the service domain setting, this setting controls whether sensitive files protected by your policies can be uploaded to specific cloud domains from Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome. Now, this is going to be dependent if the Microsoft Purview extension is installed on Chrome. Now, here I've configured to block domains like Cloud AI, Gemini, and ChatGPT. So when these unallowed browsers are used, sensitive data can't be uploaded to them. Let's go back to the policy and check that setting for paste to browser. Now, one important thing to call out here is that the Purview extension, it's required for Firefox and Chrome. And once we configured the policy and scoped it to users, let's see what the end user experience is going to be for uploading to a restricted cloud or service domain. And this is going to be a good example of why it's important to classify your data with label protections. All right. So first thing we see here is the user's already ready to use Claude. We open up a file. This file is labeled with a general label, but it does not have protection settings on it. We know that because there's no lock. Now let's take a look at another file, this highly confidential file. It has a label with protection settings, and it has that lock. That means it's encrypted and only specific users and applications can access this file. Now let's see what happens when I try to summarize the file that's labeled general. All right, the file successfully uploaded, and Claude is able to summarize a file. Although it's labeled, it's not protected. That's why Claude can see the file and summarize it. Now I want to try to summarize the other file that's labeled as highly confidential that does include protection settings. Let's see what happens now. All right, drag the file over, and almost immediately I get this error. Cannot extract text from the file. Well, this is expected behavior because the Claude AI does not have permission to the file. And this is all because it has a sensitivity label with protection settings. Now let's take a look at a paste to browser scenario that could very well happen in your organization. We're going to first take a look at what happens when we copy and then paste sensitive information into Edge, into an AI application. First, let's try to see what happens with ChatGPT. It's blocked. It's blocked, and we get the error message, excuse me, the warning message, just because we configured that appropriately in the policy. Now we'll try the same thing with Gemini. Again, we get the pop-up, the DLP policy tip. And this is educating the user. Now let's try the same thing with Firefox. Firefox has the Purview extension installed. So we still have that sensitive information on the clipboard. Now we're going to try to paste it in to DeepSeek. Blocked. We get the policy tip. Let's see what happens when we try ChatGPT. Paste. Blocked again. User again once is notified. Now let's see what happens with Chrome. In this case, Chrome does not have the Purview extension. What do you think is going to happen when I copy or paste that sensitive information? We're able to upload it. This is a good example of why it's important to have that extension installed. We're going to do the same thing with ChatGPT. Again, it's successfully pasted, and this is what we want to prevent. So that's why it's important to have that extension. Now let's take a look at the alert actions that resulted from these activities. This is the one from the paste to browser that we did in Firefox. The alert says it was Firefox. We also see that the target domain, it was Gemini. We see the enforcement action was blocked. And we see that the violating action was paste to supported browser. Now let's take a look at the next step in the secure data phase. In this step, we're blocking elevated risk users from submitting prompts in Edge. Now, we're going to use the easy button for this one, and you're going to want to use DSPM for AI that's going to create a one-click policy. And what that does is it configures endpoint DLP and insider risk management with adaptive protection. Now, we're also going to want to define the risk levels in IRM solutions. But BB showed us that earlier, so we're going to move on forward and just take a look at the endpoint DLP policy and what that looks like. So the first thing we need to do is scope it to data in browser and network activity. Now, since this policy was created by DSPM for AI, it's already named for us, which is useful because we know that this solution created the policy. Here, we're going to want to, for the Edge browser, these are the locations that we can scope it to. These are the 4 that are currently supported. Here, we see that the policy, the condition is it's an elevated risk level, and the action is to block any text that is submitted if the user is elevated. So this is how you configure the policy. We're going to now take a look at the next step in the secure data phase. And this is where we block sensitive information or sensitive texts that are submitted in those prompts. And this is going to work for ChatGPT, DeepSeek, Google, Microsoft Copilot consumer version. Yeah, that's the 4. But we do need to create a collection policy for this to work. BB mentioned this earlier, but let's quickly walk through that. So collection policies, in a nutshell, they're just an event collection and filtering tool that are used in Microsoft Purview to enable monitoring and classification of events from apps and locations that lie both inside and beyond the organization's trust boundaries. And collection policies, they can be found within the classifier section within DLP and also within information protection. So we start by creating the policy, giving it a name and a description. We can also add conditions that we want to detect. In this scenario, we're gonna select content contains all. Now we add activities. We want to add text sent or shared with a cloud or AI app. Now we choose the data source, and the data source are those unmanaged cloud apps. And these are the 4 currently supported locations. Now we're going to want to select all, we want to capture all content because this can help us later in this makes it easier to discover and protect the captured content later with other Microsoft Purview solutions. Click next, and we want to scope it to browser. That's what we're concerned about now. Finally, we're going to turn this policy on, and then we're going to take a look at the browser DLP policy real quick. Here we're looking for sensitive information. We're configuring it for text, upload, and then block. Now let's take a look at what the end user experience is going to be as a result of this policy, the browser DLP policy, and the collection policy. So here we see a user's submitting a prompt with a social security number in it, and he's blocked. Well, what happens if he just submits a regular prompt? Well, because there's no sensitive information in there, well, the prompt goes through, which is expected behavior. Sensitive information was not submitted in that prompt. All right, now that we've covered this, let's go to the final stage in this, the final step rather, in this phase, and that is network DLP, blocking sensitive information that's shared over the network. And this is going to include things like non-Microsoft browsers, apps, APIs, and add-ins. Customers have been long asking for network DLP. And this is another kind of DLP policy that can be configured within Microsoft Purview. It is in preview, and some of the activities that can be identified and monitored and blocked are going to be things like if users submit or upload files to unsanctioned cloud providers like Dropbox, Box, Google, if users send emails or attachments shared with other email cloud providers and Gmail. There's a number of other scenarios. We don't have time to dig deeper into this, but just know that the key to this feature working is that you do need to have one of these 2 SASE providers. We're currently integrate with either iBoss or Netscope. Now I'm going to hand it back over to Bibi for the sake of time so she can cover the last phase in this blueprint, the govern phase.
Thank you so much, Leo. So yeah, in addition to protecting data for Shadow AI, you can also govern the Shadow AI usage. And that's exactly what this last pillar of this blueprint is. So example, you can audit interactions with Shadow AI, you can detect inappropriate Shadow AI prompts, you can retain or delete Shadow AI prompts as per your organization's retention schedule, and you can also investigate Shadow AI prompts during forensic or legal investigation. So please be aware that to enable these governance features, you must have the browser or network data security capabilities configured. So I and Leo covered the prerequisites for this earlier in this session. So now let's see how you can investigate Shadow AI audit logs. So you can go to your Purview audit logs portal, and then you can specify AI app interaction under the activities tab here. Or you can specify AI app interaction or connected AI app interaction under the records type dropdown, or add AI app workload under this workloads tab. And then you can select the users and then select the date range and look for the audit logs. So here are the audit logs that we have found for Shadow AI apps in the organization. If we open this audit log, it shows the application name, ChatGPT. You can also see when the user accessed it, which user accessed it, right? So it shows Joni Sherman has accessed this. You can also note the app identity from here and search the corresponding entries in eDiscovery that can show you the exact prompts that are entered. The audit logs will not show you the exact prompts entered into these apps. You will have to use the eDiscovery portal to see the exact prompts. You can also use the DSPM for AI's Activity Explorer to check the prompts in generative AI apps. I already showed you how you can do that in the Discover section of the blueprint. Next, you may want to identify scenarios where users are unethically or inappropriately using Shadow AI. And for this, you can use Purview communication compliance policies. So go to your communication compliance portal in Purview and create a custom policy. Here you can apply communication compliance policies to Exchange, Teams, Viva Engage, as well as to Copilot experiences, to enterprise AI apps, and also for Shadow AI. So for Shadow AI, you can select this other AI apps location. And we can check the user's prompt that matches certain trainable classifiers like targeted harassment or discrimination or threat, profanity, violence, hate, self-harm, and much more. So here is a sample for communication compliance policy match. You can see that this user, Joni Sherman, was asking Shadow AI like ChatGPT to give some ideas on conducting cyber attacks on a company. This is definitely not ethical use of AI. With communication compliance, you can identify such scenarios. Next, the organizations may also want to retain AI prompts for certain period or delete AI prompts after certain period to meet their retention requirements. So for this, you can go to the data lifecycle management portal and then create new retention policy. And to apply policy to Shadow AI interactions, you can select this other AI apps location. And here you will be able to either retain or delete the Shadow AI interactions as per your retention schedule. And then in some scenarios, you may also have the need to investigate users' generative AI prompts for legal investigation, forensic investigation using eDiscovery. So for such situations, you can use the eDiscovery premium feature in Purview. So under the eDiscovery condition builder, you can select the users that you want to investigate, and then you can specify item class that looks for non-Microsoft 365 AI activity, or this refers to the Shadow AI activity. And you can then collect the search results in review sets, and you will be able to review the prompts that are entered by users in the consumer generative AI apps. So example, you can see these chats that were entered by Joni in ChatGPT. Under the metadata properties, it will show you the app identity, which matches the app identity we saw in the audit logs. And this belongs to the app ChatGPT, which is a consumer AI application or the Shadow AI app. So yeah, to summarize, Purview provides you various controls to get visibility into Shadow AI apps. You can block access to Shadow AI. You can also secure your data for Shadow AI and govern data in Shadow AI apps. So this was a overview of how you can implement this blueprint called Preventing Data Leak to Shadow AI with Microsoft.